Welcome to Goblin Slayer. Naturally, you might think that killing goblins in anime could be something trivial, but this anime does something I don't see often. It makes these battles epic and entertaining, featuring the most intense protagonist of all. By the end of these recaps, I might sound crazy from saying the word goblin so much. If you are new here, subscribe. Let's get to 500 subscribers. The story begins with a group of novice adventurers invading a goblin-infested cave to complete their mission. It's an apparently well-balanced group composed of a mage, a priestess, a warrior, and a fighter. However, they are not properly prepared to face these little monsters, and everything goes wrong in less than 5 minutes. They are ambushed by the goblins and massacred unilaterally. The warrior is killed, the mage is pierced and poisoned, and the fighter is captured to serve as a surrogate. When the priestess is about to meet her cruel fate, she is saved by the protagonist, Goblin Slayer. As his name suggests, this guy is a PhD when it comes to goblins. He knows everything about their physiology, psychology, evolution levels, and is cautious in his preparations. As they advance through the cave, the priestess decides to follow the warrior in search of her groupmate. During this process, our hero also teaches us about goblin tactics and battles, how to recognize their leaders, and basic precautions to cleanse this evil from the earth. Upon reaching the end of the cave, they prepare a joint attack to surprise the enemies. The priestess uses her sacred magic to blind everyone, allowing Goblin Slayer to quickly advance and defeat the goblin shaman leader and his minions. In the end, they also discover several young goblins, which Goblin Slayer mercilessly exterminates to prevent them from becoming a future threat. Some surviving women are also rescued, and here we learn that goblins need humanoid females to reproduce. These creatures are truly a plague on humanity. With these somewhat traumatic experiences, the priestess decides to join Goblin Slayer as his adventure companion. The next day, our hero and his childhood friend, the cowgirl, head to the city to sell farm products. An interesting fact in the second episode is that no one has a name in this anime. Everyone is called by their title or class. Later, Goblin Slayer goes to the guild in search of work, where we see that his reputation isn't the best. Despite being an experienced adventurer, he is judged for wearing low-quality armor and his strange habit of only taking goblin-related missions. However, he also has his fans. A guild receptionist appreciates his dedication to exterminating this green menace, as most adventurers don't accept such missions due to the low reward value. At this moment, the anime reveals a bit of the protagonist's motivation for being obsessed with eradicating goblins from the face of the earth. When he was little, his village was massacred by an invasion of these monsters. Besides the cowgirl's parents being caught in this tragedy, he also witnessed the end of his older sister while hiding. Driven by the force of hatred, he trained and specialized in goblin hunting. However, this trauma also created a barrier in his ability to socialize, along with his obsession with exterminating these little monsters, something the cowgirl's uncle constantly warns his nephew about, saying his old friend will never be a normal guy. Even so, she continues to support him, driven by a feeling of guilt for not taking him to the city on the days his village was destroyed. Later, we see the protagonist and his new mission companion setting out to exterminate goblins that have occupied a fortress. Attacking the fort with just 2 people would be suicidal, so the expert devises a highly efficient extermination plan. With the help of fire arrows, he sets the entire fortress ablaze while the priestess conjures barriers at the exits, blocking the survivors' escape. This way, they all become barbecue, suffocated by smoke. Efficiency and safety, the guy was 100% prepared. In this episode, we see a distant city to the east, where a group is looking for an adventurer named Goblin Slayer. This group consists of an elf archer, a dwarf shaman, and a lizard priest. They ask the guild receptionist for information about an adventurer called Goblin Slayer in their native language. At this moment, the heroes are called to talk with the trio, while the priestess remains at the guild reception. There, some novice adventurers approach her to convince her to leave Goblin Slayer's group and join them. They assume this guy is just using the priestess as bait to abandon her later if something goes wrong. Fortunately, a witch intervenes, defending the protagonist with her influence and reputation, silencing these new adventurers. Back in the meeting room, the elf explains that her race has allied with humans to fight against the Demon Lord's army, which has been resurrected. They want to hire Goblin Slayer for a mission. Initially, the request is promptly refused, causing some anger in the elf. His justification is that these demons are not his concern. However, he quickly changes his mind when the dwarf and lizard priest mention that the mission involves clearing ruins occupied by goblins in Elven lands. He agrees immediately. Before departing, the priestess also joins the mission after complaining to her partner for not asking if she wanted to participate in the adventure. After a long journey to their destination, the group camps to eat and rest, reflecting on the origin of goblins. After all, where do they come from? What do they eat? Where do they live? Only here do we learn about this. The next day, the group sets out to invade the occupied ruins. They enter stealthily after the elf archer silences the sentinels. During the operation, Goblin Slayer comments that the leader of the goblins shouldn't be a shaman, since they haven't seen any erected totems, a crucial characteristic of their race. In the process, they rescue an elf prisoner who was tortured, which infuriates the elf, swearing vengeance on her kind. This vengeance comes quickly, as they soon find a hall full of goblins resting. Using his expertise, Goblin Slayer and the group eliminate the sleeping goblins without making a sound that could alert reinforcements. However, this total silence raises suspicions. After all, goblins are not known for being quiet creatures, right? The leader realizes this is a possible sign of invasion, and we see that this monster troop is led not by a goblin but by an ogre, who happens to be one of the Demon Lord's generals. The ogre attacks the team with physical strength and fire magic, proving to be a tough opponent. His large size and high regeneration capacity give him advantages, and he soon pushes the invaders to their limits. Seeing no other way to defeat him, Goblin Slayer uses his trump card, a magic scroll with a rune connected to another scroll that functions as a kind of portal. It's an item he had the Guild Witch prepare as a precaution. When the magic is executed, a strong jet of water from the ocean's depths is launched at the ogre, leaving him severely injured and unable to defend against our hero's final blow. After this event, Elven reinforcements arrive to reclaim the ruins, and the adventurers return safely to the city. The entire experience and interaction with Goblin Slayer leave a great impression on the elf archer, and as a form of gratitude, she insists on dragging him on an adventure that doesn't involve goblins. On his side, our hero returns to his routine of helping the cowgirl with supply deliveries around the city. There, he meets the priestess, who has been promoted to the next adventurer level. Congratulations to her. At the guild, he also encounters two novice adventurers, one of whom lost his sword during a sewer exploration. To help them recover the equipment, he gives some advice on how to defeat the sewer monsters using an improvised club. The next person to talk to him is the guild receptionist, asking him to act as an observer in another adventurer's promotion interview. This adventurer is a scout who requested a promotion to ruby rank. However, this adventurer is exposed for betraying his own group and, as a consequence, is removed from the guild, never to work as an adventurer in this city again. The scout even considers retaliating against the receptionist because of this punishment, but the presence of our hero persuades him not to do anything foolish. We also see that the young adventurers manage to recover their sword thanks to Goblin Slayer's tips, and the guild celebrates the novice's victory. At the end of the day, Goblin Slayer receives a letter from the Sword Maiden, one of the adventurers responsible for defeating the Demon Lord years ago. The letter contains a mission request for a goblin hunt, which Goblin Slayer eagerly accepts. The group heads to Watertown, where they meet the retired adventurer who hired them. She explains that a series of brutalities have recently occurred in the city, and the suspects are the green monsters that have invaded their sewer system. Since the army doesn't mobilize to fight low-level monsters and other adventurers have failed to exterminate them, she decided to contact an expert. Upon entering the sewers, they discover that the goblins have learned to use boats to transport themselves through the system, which leaves Goblin Slayer extremely annoyed, as these creatures were never intelligent enough for such a feat. While navigating, the group accidentally attracts the attention of a giant alligator. As they flee from the massive creature, they spot 3 more boats filled with goblins. To avoid a double attack, the leader has a brilliant idea. He asks the priestess to use her magic to create a light at the tip of the alligator's tail, turning it into bait to attract and decimate the remaining boats. They then return to the surface. Goblin Slayer is concerned about the fact that the goblins were using boats while being unaware of the giant alligator's existence. He explains that goblins are naturally cowardly and wouldn't risk navigating a place where they could be easily wiped out. This means these little monsters didn't grow naturally in this environment, suggesting that something or someone is manipulating the sewer invasions. After a good rest in the city, the group returns to the sewers to understand the origin of these invaders. As a precaution, Goblin Slayer brings a canary as a tool to warn them of any poisonous gas they might encounter. During their exploration, they fall into a trap, locked in a room. Suddenly, the canary becomes very agitated, indicating that poisonous gas is being released into the environment. The group quickly seals all openings to prevent the gas from entering. Soon, the monsters open the room for a direct attack on the invaders. The group defends well, but with the arrival of the monster's leader, a goblin champion, things get intense. This big guy is quite powerful and has a numerical advantage. The group resists the horde of monsters well, but unfortunately, the dwarf shaman is severely injured by the boss, being thrown against a stone pillar with a single blow. Honestly, I don't even know how the guy is still conscious after spitting blood everywhere. It seems like the end of the line for them as the goblins surround and overwhelm the entire group. The goblin champion grabs the priestess, tearing part of her arm. As she screams in pain, our hero enters a deep trance. Driven by his childhood trauma, he regains consciousness and using strands of hair from a skeleton, he blinds the monster leader. In his desperation, the champion starts attacking his own allies and even has his right eye ripped out by hand. The champion and the goblins flee in fear from the leader's display of resilience, and the sight of his eye glowing red is terrifying, even for those watching the anime. Fortunately, the priestess's injuries weren't too deep, but the same can't be said for Goblin Slayer, who faints after ensuring his colleague is okay. He wakes up in a temple, having been healed by a resurrection miracle, which can only be performed by a virgin priestess. At this moment, we learn that their contractor was captured and tortured by goblins 10 years ago, during which she lost part of her vision. Despite being one of the heroes who killed the Demon King, this experience instilled a mortal fear of goblins in her. Now, with everyone alive, Goblin Slayer repairs his equipment for a new assault on the sewers, while he and the priestess spend the day recovering in the city. The other three continue exploring the sewers, gathering information for the next attack. At the end of the day, the witch and the lancer arrive to deliver a somewhat mysterious package to Goblin Slayer. They even have the audacity to ask when he will use the package to exterminate goblins and what the reason might be. The next morning, the group returns to the sewers. One of the members had discovered the presence of a powerful demon known in some RPGs as a beholder or eye tyrant, creatures that attack with magical powers through their eyes. Fortunately, Goblin Slayer was prepared for this. The package he was carrying contained several pounds of fine flour, which, when spread in a closed space, can ignite with a spark, causing a chain reaction of combustion and a strong explosion, enough to take down the demon in a single blow. Now, the group is free to investigate the mysterious mirror that was being guarded. It turns out to be a portal connected to the goblin's dwelling, allowing them to invade the city through the sewers. Meanwhile, the Goblin Champion finds the heroes due to the alert caused by the explosion. While the Lizard Priest works to remove the mirror from the wall, the rest of the group defends against the Goblin's attack. As soon as the magical item is detached, the leader orders everyone to take cover under it, while the dwarf uses his magic to collapse the room's ceiling, crushing all the enemies in the process. The mirror protects them from the debris. Victorious, they escape with the mirror to later sink it to the bottom of the river. Goblin Slayer discusses the mission's success with their contractor, suspecting that she knew much more than she was revealing. She admits that the giant alligator is her servant, guarding the sewers, and that the mirror was placed by a cult of demon worshippers who had been exterminated by the hero previously. Even though the worshippers were eliminated, the Sword Maiden confesses that she took time to act because she wanted others to understand the cruelty goblins are capable of. Goblin Slayer responds that he can't cure her trauma, but he will kill all the goblins she needs, even those in her dreams. As Goblin Slayer returns to the city, he learns that the Demon Lord and his army were defeated by the new heroes of the world. with their lives being promoted to Platinum rank, the 10th person to reach this level in the adventurer's ranking history. This means that this world hero is quite formidable. While all the cities celebrate, Goblin Slayer continues his daily tasks, accompanying the cowgirl to the city for deliveries and repairing his own armor. There, he notices some veteran adventurers training novices as a way to help the guild develop new talents. He meets with the rest of the group, who invite him to lunch with the elf archer. Hearing this, the guild receptionist also joins them for the meal. His childhood friend wonders if Goblin Slayer will ever retire from adventuring. Back at the farm the next day, our hero maintains his routine of inspecting the farm. By chance, he receives a second letter from the Sword Maiden, thanking him for all his help and saying she no longer sees goblins in her dreams. Later, he shares a moment with his friend where she comments that he should think more about his future, one without the relentless pursuit of exterminating goblins. However, the revelation the next day isn't good. During his farm inspection routine, the hero discovers numerous goblin footprints and concludes that a horde of over 100 monsters will soon invade the farm. He warns his friend that he won't be able to fight so many goblins in the open and asks her to leave the land, which she refuses to do. Seeking a solution, he heads to the city to ask other adventurers for help. Many refuse, as there's no reward for an unofficial guild mission, and it would be risky to fight such a large horde. In response, he offers everything he hashes: knowledge, money, equipment, and even his time as a reward for helping him. Observing his determination, the Lancer and the Witch agree to return to his side, as do the adventurers he helped recover a lost sword in the city's sewers. Of course, all his friends join without question, with their only demand being food and drink as a reward. Even so, it remains a daunting task to face a battle of 100 monsters versus 9 people. But the guild receptionist pulls some strings and manages to post a reward of 1 gold coin for each goblin killed, convincing the rest of the adventurers to join the cause. The defense plan is laid out, and we learn that the horde is led by a goblin lord, a highly intelligent leader specializing in invasion and strategy. The plan proves highly effective, with the first waves of goblins easily defeated. Realizing the defenders are prepared, the Lord decides to up the ante by sending in several hobgoblins and goblin champions. It takes several strong veterans to defeat these oversized goblins. Seeing the failure of his invasion, the Goblin Lord retreats from the battle but is intercepted by Goblin Slayer, who predicted all his strategies, including his escape route. The duel begins, and even though Goblin Slayer isn't used to fighting Goblin Lords face-to-face, the fight remains well-balanced. However, we can clearly see that the enemy's equipment is more suited for a one-on-one battle in the open. The Goblin Lord manages to destroy Goblin Slayer's shield with the strength of his axe. Goblin Slayer is knocked down and cornered, and when it seems like the end for him, the Priestess, who was hiding in the shadows, casts some barriers, trapping the boss in a magical prison. The Goblin Lord tries to deceive them by pleading for mercy, saying he would return to the forest and never attack anyone again, as if that excuse would work on these goblin experts. As a result, our hero rises and defeats the boss. This was all part of his plan, where he acted as bait for the Priestess to trap the Lord between the barriers. With the battle over, it's time to celebrate at Goblin Slayer's expense. During the party, the Lancer confides in his friend that he's starting to be interested in becoming a true adventurer. Finally, Goblin Slayer removes his helmet at the Priestess's request as a reward, and everyone is surprised to see his face for the first time. At the end of the anime, we have a narration from the Sword Maiden, commenting that the Goblin Lord was just another pawn on the board for the gods, but he refuses to let the gods roll the dice to decide his actions. In other words, his fate is completely unknown to them, just as it is to us. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this epic journey and want to see more exciting anime recaps, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell for notifications on our latest content. Share your thoughts in the comments below about what you thought of Goblin Slayer and what other stories you'd like us to explore. Your support is essential for us to continue bringing amazing content to you. Until next time.